Well, Bitcoin got one heck of a move to the downside, and in this video I want to do a few things. I want to do a quick recap, go over what my current thoughts are with Bitcoin. I want to take a look at some of the high time frame levels of support below us, or if price decides to continue to move lower. And as always, I'll do some market cipher analysis. So pulling up the TA from my last video, what I was basically looking at is as price was moving into this support zone, market cipher on the midterm timeframes was not really showing anything that I would like to see as Bitcoin approaches very key support. Market cipher was just in general looking bearish. The only time frame that had like real decent looking divergences was the 1 hour, but because of the time frames higher than it, I was not trusting it at that point. And I mentioned that, maybe we end up ranging in this area, and that gives market cipher some time to start turning to the upside. Maybe then we can get a sweep of that low, getting some divergences, and that could mark a significant low. But at the time of recording, market cipher was looking pretty bearish as we were approaching key support. And there is a reason why I entered a local short trade as soon as we lost the value area low. I started looking for shorts, and there's a reason I held some of that for, if we did not hold this blue box as support, if we lost that, I thought we could very easily get a move down to this range low, which we have, and we've gone quite a bit farther than it. And that's basically the recap. Market cipher was, given some heads up that, hey, things are looking pretty bearish here. So, either wait for them to not look so bearish anymore, or maybe expect a move like this to happen. And I still am holding some of this short trade. Depending on what happens if we come back to visit this low, I may close it out. So at this point, we have taken out the macro range low, this range that we've been trading in since all-time high. We wicked out the low pretty far, but right now we are back above it. We have recovered it. And I know a lot of people are getting bearish right now. There is definitely potential that this bearishness continues. But, I do want to point out that, so far we have reclaimed the range low. And even if, we kind of start revisiting that low sometime soon within the next few days, this could ultimately end up being a weekly SFP. We took out this low on Monday, meaning we still have over 6 days until this weekly candle closes. So there's still plenty of time to get a weekly SFP on this low. Now, granted, things on market cipher are not looking very good for that right now. They're still pretty much showing bearish continuation as far as money flow moving to the downside, but I'll go over that later. And I just want to look at all the possibilities. I think it's possible that we do continue retracing farther, but I also, want to look at the possibility of maybe this is just, taking out liquidity from below this range, and maybe we pull back up into it and can kind of sustain price action up here, and then we're just back to trading in this sideways price action. So now what I want to do is I want to look at even higher time frame, even more macro levels of support, because, what happens if we do end up losing this range, start closing some daily candles below it, eventually closing the weekly candle below it. What are the supports that sit below us? And the first thing I want to look at is the fixed range pull of this macro range. You can very clearly see that this is in a way a massive range. It's a bunch of sideways price action. And looking at this, we have just fallen down below the value area low. And we actually got very close to hitting the point of control already. It's just below us, which I think is the first interesting thing I want to point out. So off the bat, that gives us a little bit of context, knowing where the value area high and the point of control are. And another thing that I've done here is I've marked out some of the high volume nodes. So I'm looking for the areas with high volume spikes. That shows right here, these little spikes are the volume. And you can see the point of control is the one that's the farthest to the right. That is the highest volume node. And I have put a box around some of the high volume nodes that I think are significant. So zooming in over here, this box pretty much goes from this high volume node right here. I went a little bit higher than it, down to a little bit below the point of control. So, this whole area is kind of high volume, even though the highest volume node is right here at 47.2. I'm looking at the whole zone where there's high volume. And there's another one down here coming in roughly between 43.5 and 42K. And you can see these high volume areas have these kind of valleys of low volume in between them. And we get another area of high volume right here coming in between 39.9 and 38.8K. And this one could potentially extend down a little bit more. I mean, volume drops off a little bit right here, but it's still kind of high volume compared to what it is over here. And there is another high volume node coming in below that, but I'm kind of marking out the ones that are closest to price action. And this first box is pretty close to price action. We could see a local SFP this low. Granted, that would be a pretty large wick, probably a few percent if I had to guess. So yeah, down to point of control would be like a 3.5% move below that wick. But we could certainly see it. We already got a massive wick right here. This one's probably 5% at least. Yeah, it's actually about 7. And another thing I want to do here is let's look for confluence. So I took a fib retracement from bear market low up to all-time high. And this confluence is not really great. The fib levels are not coming in inside of these high volume areas. They are near them. So you could maybe extend this one down to the golden pocket. Maybe you want to extend this one up to the 0.5. And one more thing that I did find that was interesting, if you take an anchored VWAP from the bear market low, this one is creeping up on this middle box of high volume. So if price works its way down to this area soon, we probably will have confluence with that anchored VWAP, and that is from a very significant point. And we did see some bullish reactions from this anchored VWAP in the past. In fact, they both marked very significant lows. We saw aggressive moves from that anchored VWAP. And all of these high volume areas are coming in within this range of price action, this range that formed prior to the move up to all-time high. In fact, if you're looking at market structure on a high time frame, this is really the last retracement before the push to all-time high, and this is still right now the higher low in probably the weekly uptrend. So, there is something to keep in mind. We are still in bullish weekly market structure. And again, I know a lot of people are getting super bearish here, calling this the top, saying we're going to see a full-on rotation from this, which could happen. I'm not saying it can't. Sure, we did see bearish signs on a lot of different things on market Cipher as well up in this range, but, we didn't really see too many bearish signs on this high. Like, we didn't see divergences on the high. On the weekly time frame, money flow and momentum put in higher highs. We really saw the bearishness develop afterwards. And, keeping in mind that we could just be simply retracing for a higher low, I'm not willing to say that the high for the cycle is definitely in yet. I am keeping in mind that, we may just be retracing. So as of right now, these are, really my key areas of support. I may do some refining in the future. I may look for some other confluences. Maybe I'll find something that, really piques my interest, and I'll talk about that later. But for right now, I'm really focused on these areas of high volume. And now let's take a look at market Cipher. Let's do some top-down analysis, starting on the weekly. So following this red dot, which has confirmed now, we saw momentum get a pretty sharp move to the downside. It put in lower lows. But interestingly, we saw the weekly money flow get a move to the upside. You could even make a case for this being a bullish divergence, given the fact that price put in a lower low, yet money flow put in a higher low. Now, am I going to put a whole lot of weight on this? Not really. It's kind of a funny looking divergence, and, we could very easily just continue dumping here, and money flow could follow along afterwards. But it is, kind of strange that we saw money flow continue to get a move to the upside. The one thing I can think is maybe this move to the downside was just so fast it didn't really give time for the weekly money flow to reflect that bearishness. And that's not really something I would put any weight on unless the lower time frames are backing it up. So let's see if they are. So on the daily, I know this is the market Cipher section, but I am very interested to see where the daily candle closes. Are we going to close as an SFP? We got about 2 hours from when I'm recording till the daily candle closes. And right now, I have to say daily money flow certainly looks bearish. It has taken a very drastic turn to the downside and has now taken out these lows over here. It has put in a lower low with this very aggressive move. And it has even taken out previous significant lows. It has put in a lower low compared to here. And it is getting pretty close to this significant low over here, which, where was that in price action? That was the last tap off of that anchored VWAP that I pulled up. It is also a SFP of a significant range, and what followed from there was a very aggressive move to the upside. And I remember this, and at that time, daily money flow was looking very bearish as well. In fact, following this low, money flow continued to trend to the downside. If I put a vertical line on that wick low, you can see money flow continued to trend to the downside following that. Momentum did not look bullish At least not in terms of direction. It was very oversold. But yeah, this was another situation where the daily time frame was looking super bearish. However, we still ended up bottoming out there and getting a very significant push following that. And I have made comparisons to this time before. The main difference is now we are much higher in price. We have taken out all-time high. We are in a different situation now, but maybe there are some similarities. Maybe we could see a similar result. Just a thought, not anything I'm putting a whole lot of weight on, but it's something I have to consider. And there is still potential for momentum divs on the daily. Momentum is getting a very quick move to the downside. We could easily void this within the next few days if we continue seeing bearish price action. But as of right now, we do have potential to make a higher low as price made a lower low. Looking at the VWAP, VWAP is not getting close to the zero line at all. In fact, it looks like it may be turning back to the downside right here. You can see a little bit of curvature away from the zero line. And even if this does end up being a divergence, there is still the fact that we put in a lower low with money flow, so I really wouldn't consider it that strong of a div. The 4-hour looks pretty bearish still. We're still seeing that continued direction to the downside with momentum putting in lower highs and lower lows, as well as money flow. And yeah, it is still moving to the downside pretty aggressively. So obviously, no divergences on this low so far on the 4-hour. Could we potentially, range here for a bit and then get divergences if we sweep the low again? Yeah, that is possible, but right now we're still seeing that direction with market Cipher. And in case it wasn't clear, that direction is pointing to the downside. 3-hour, exact same thing, lower lows with everything. 2-hour, same deal. Do we even have divs on the 1-hour? Potentially with money flow. Yeah, I mean, there is a slight money flow div, not with momentum though, I don't think. Actually, there was some very local divs, it looks like, as we approached that low. Let me put a vertical line on it. Yeah, there was a very, very slight divergence. You saw momentum moving to the upside, even printed the red dot, green dot, but I would not call that a very reassuring signal, especially with the 2-hour through 4-hour looking how they're looking. Yeah, I mean, it really does seem like market Cipher is still pointing to the downside. Now, I'm still going to watch price action if things turn out bullish here, especially if we end up taking out that low at some point in the future with some better looking bull divs. Then I think there is still a chance at us holding this macro range. But, at this point, just based off of market Cipher, it seems like there is a decent chance that we may just continue lower. But no matter what happens, I will be able to watch price action, make plans based on price action. Right now, I have some plans for if we do end up taking out this low, or if we continue lower, some areas of support that I'm watching. And I will simply play the price action that is in front of me. I'm not really stressing about where Bitcoin goes. But then again, I don't have that massive of a spot portfolio. So, I'm not really stressing about this dump at all. And I am really just interested in trading the price action. Alright, well, that is it for me. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, consider leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, leaving a comment. All that helps to support the channel, and I appreciate it. And I will see you all in the next video.